Elon Musk suffered a major loss in a Delaware court this week when a judge voided his $55 billion compensation package from Tesla. Judge Kathleen McCormick called the compensation, quote, an unfathomable sum, and it was unfair to shareholders, and the process leading to its 2018 approval was deeply flawed. When you read through the documents, it was such a back-scratchy situation among the board members who are all friends of his. Apparently one of them cried how much he loved Elon on it, which was kind of disturbing. Elon responded to the ruling on X, posting, never incorporate your company in the state of Delaware. Too late, Elon. And also you should have had stock that put you in control of the dual class shareholders, which you didn't do either. So too bad. Yeah, if you had a time machine. Were you surprised by the ruling? First of all, the judge, let me give you more facts. The judge ordered Tesla to cancel the stock options awarded to Elon, valued at about $51 billion, which is where most of his compensation is. Tesla's directors now have to figure out a new compensation plan that passes legal muster and keeps Elon happy and does it at an arm's length, which is good luck with that because this board has shown itself to be a giant rubber stamp for Elon Musk. We haven't heard if he's going to appeal, but after a poll on X, he's now saying Tesla will hold a shareholder vote to incorporate in Texas. Anyway, what does the ruling mean for Elon's quest to get that 25%?
I've never heard of this happening or seen it happen. The fact that I've been on compensation committees of boards, I've never had a shareholder lawsuit against the compensation, the schematic you put in place. But to have a shareholder lawsuit, I've heard of them. Like Martin Sorrell had shareholder lawsuits constantly around his compensation. Mm-hmm. But to have it rejected, I mean, effectively the shareholders decide who the board is. Mm-hmm. And so if the shareholders decide who the board is, who decides the compensation, then technically the owners of the company have decided, what he or she gets. I don't believe you should limit compensation. I think we live in a capitalist society, and I don't like the idea. I do believe that we should have a more progressive tax structure, but anyways, that's another talk show. But this effectively says that this board is so incompetent and so conflicted that any decisions they make might not hold up in court because of the conflicts there. Even if you read the ruling, they talk about the size of it, but what they talk about is the conflicts and just how poor the rationalization was for giving him this. Because as much as the compensation was, I mean, just to be fair and try and call balls and strikes, him getting an incremental $50 billion if he increases the value of the company $500 billion, that's not. I've seen compensation plans that on. I mean, it's exceptional, but on a proportionate size or percentage of value increase, it wasn't outrageous. What this says is, what's going to end up happening here? He's not going to be able to reincorporate all these threats, all these jazz hands, all this fake.
Can you do that? When I was reading that, I was like,
I'm not sure you can. I don't. I should have just said right off the bat. I don't know. But the notion that. And then he's just so ridiculous. He says, he said, I want to meet with shareholders and convince them to divest from Tesla or any of his companies ever. They are not welcome. Well, Elon, I don't know if you've heard or you understand corporate structure, but CEOs serve at the luxury of shareholders, not vice versa. You don't get to decide who your shareholders are. The shareholders get to decide what CEO they want. Mm-hmm. And did you see the movie, did you see Pulp Fiction?
Long time ago. Yeah.
Well, there's a scene in it where I think his name is, he's a great actor, Ving Rhames.
Yeah, Ving Rhames. Yeah, he was in all the Mission Impossibles, yeah.
I think he is knocked unconscious. They put a gag ball on him and they rape him. He had much more domain and dignity than this board has right now. This board has been just molested. They should show up to the next annual meeting with a gag ball because they are... the fact that a court has said you are so incompetent and so conflicted and you are such terrible fiduciaries for shareholders that we're going to just reject his compensation somewhat because of the size of it, but just because this board...
It wasn't the size. I have to tell you, because you could make an argument that he deserves it. See, it wasn't how number they got to. You certainly could make a cogent argument he deserves it. It's a lot of money, but still.
That's right.
But the details, like the going on vacation, one of them, I think Antonio Garcia's, they're best friends. The brother is on there. One of them was a CFO and he cried because he loved Elon so much. I mean, you cannot there's no independence among any of these people, on this board. And so just was a hands, you're supposed to have, I mean, boards are cozy. Let's be honest. Come on. Like, that, like they're very cozy with the CEOs and tend to give the CEOs what they want, but at least they pretend that they're not doing quite this. And so it's so bad. This is something we've just talked about without any particular knowledge. It's so obvious. It's a rubber stamp of a board. They don't stop him from doing damage via his tweets. They didn't control his behavior. They may worry about his drug use, but they don't do anything about it or don't think they can do anything about it. So this is just this is the least surprising thing, that their pay package was done, by Elon, essentially. Elon wrote it and then they rubber stamped it, right?
Well, the Delaware Chancery Court, he gets to appeal to the Supreme Court of Delaware. They will uphold, I think, Chancellor McCormick's recommendation. But I mean, this comes on the heels of him threatening the board that if they didn't give him $75 billion in additional compensation,
he's still doing that. Yeah,
he was going to steal the IP from the company and start his own AI company. I mean, the board, the Delaware court has said your board is incompetent. What ultimately ends up happening here, though, I mean, all the threats and the jazz hands around moving to Texas, he's going to have to replace the compensation committee and get someone to lead the compensation committee who has some credibility.
And also doesn't want to be lost. There's a story from Reuters about this that said legal experts said Musk would almost certainly be sued by investors if he tried to move the state of incorporation to Texas, particularly if it was seen as a move to secure his pay package rather than obtain some benefits for Tesla.
Their shareholders.
It's so in plain sight. Elon Musk's plan to change Tesla's state of incorporation to Delaware, Texas is typical behavior for an entrepreneur who always looks for an alternative. He can't get what he wants. Shareholders need to take a hard look at how transitioning out of Delaware might impact their rights in the company's governance. These shareholders aren't going away. And this is the same judge who oversaw the lawsuit
Twitter
with the Twitter. He had to buy it. This judge is showing him he's looking for a nicer judge, right? In Texas.
Well, maybe his brother could get on the Chancery Court of Delaware. At the end of the day, I love the term fiduciary.
Yeah.
And fiduciary is very simple. When you get to a point in your life where you're worried about, all right, once I'm sick, once I die, I need someone to represent my interests. And so you appoint a fiduciary for your state. And it's a wonderful term. And one of our abilities as humans, as a species, is we can trust other people to serve our interests, maybe when it doesn't serve their own, because they agree to be fiduciaries. And boards are supposed to be fiduciaries for all stakeholders. And I think he owns about, 12 or 15% of the company, which means that they are supposed to represent the other 85%. They're supposed to represent the community. They're supposed to represent national security. And this board is, they're just horrible fiduciaries. They represent or have tried to represent one stakeholder and one stakeholder only. And Delaware has just said, when you're a public company and you sell shares to retail investors, you have certain obligations, and this board isn't living up to it. All roads lead to the same place. He is going to have to thread a needle by finding someone credible who also he thinks will do anything he wants. And those two are in direct contradiction with each other.
Well, it's not clear that Texas judges will be roll over. Not necessarily. Like that, it's a big risk, but whatever. He likes to do this.
I don't think that's going to happen. He's not going to incorporate in Texas. Yeah. He's not. All roads lead to the same place.
65% of companies are incorporated in Delaware because of their law, their business-friendly laws.
He's going to have to appoint new people to the board who serve on, and one of them's going to have to serve on the compensation committee, and such that.
Can you imagine? I'd be like, no, thank you.
Well, I actually think he'll be able to. I think there's a lot of people. It's like no one ever said that anyone would be in Trump's cabinet. I think the seduction to be near the seat of power is too huge for people.
Also, the threat of lawsuits. If you're, I wouldn't be a director of that company. Save my life.
But here's the bad news, Kara. Someone who served on a lot of boards, you get D&O insurance. There's only. Do you realize the people who served on Enron's board, they had to give some of their compensation back. You basically have to murder people to get in trouble as a board member.
Yeah, I agree.
They're so protected.
That's why this ruling's amazing, don't you think?
That's why, because it's usually so cozy. I have never seen this before. I have never seen a compensation package rejected, and it's retroactive. He's not going to lose money because he hasn't exercised the options. But not only is he not getting the additional $75 billion he's been trying to blackmail the board from, I mean, there's no way they can give him that money now. I mean, they look so stupid.
Yeah.
He's going to have to appoint something resembling an independent director to the compensation committee. Otherwise, the next comp package is going to be rejected. This Chancellor McCormick, I think that's how you refer to her, she's just not impressed by Elon.
No.
She's like, no, I'm going to look at the law.
Because she's a woman.
I'm going to look at the law and I'm going to interpret the law. And I need to send a signal to every board, even the board of hot companies with a guy who tweets all day, that they have an obligation to be fiduciaries. This is a good ruling for corporate governance and for other corporations because CEO pay has accelerated from 27 times an average worker salary to over 350 in the last 40 years. And some of it is the coziness you talk about. Some of it is just people are more comfortable with people making billions of dollars, whatever it might be. But I love this ruling, and I think she's fantastic.
Yeah, she is. She's great. It just has a sense of like, I'm over you. I've never was under you, but I'm way over you kind of thing. Anyway, we'll see what goes on. He's going to do his antics, his loudmouth. He's like, how many rules can you just keep breaking and pretend you're what drives me crazy? This idea that he's some bold speaker of truth, as my wife, that's her expression. He's not a bold speaker of truth. He's just a toddler. It's a badly behaved toddler.
He's turning into a cautionary tale because there's just no getting around it. He is a bold, visionary genius when it comes to products and risk-taking. I think on the whole, he's been good for the world. I wouldn't want to press a button where he just, never immigrated to America. He's going to be, you got to give the guy his due. But he's just he's a cautionary tale